All right, today we're diving into something pretty fascinating and honestly pretty provocative. It's a document that's been making some serious waves, called the Kukulkan Codex. It calls itself a navigation map for rebirth, basically a master plan for a global transition. But what is it really all about? Let's get into it.
Right out of the gate, the Codex opens with this direct, and I mean defiant, address to the global elite. The architects of Davos, Geneva, and the Vatican. It really pulls no punches. This first line sets a tone that's confrontational, almost mystical. It's not just saying the old world order is failing, it's saying it's completely out of step with what it calls a cosmic dance.
So, you're probably asking, what is this thing, really? Is it some kind of political manifesto, a spiritual guide, or is it a literal step-by-step plan for a new world? That's what we're here to unpack. Its core arguments and its pretty radical vision for what comes next.
The way this document is structured is really interesting. It doesn't just jump into solutions. Nope, it starts with a diagnosis. This first part is basically a stark warning to what it calls the old order, arguing that the whole global system as we know it is already in a state of collapse.
And the language it uses is, well, it's striking. The Codex says a chainsaw of reality. A phrase you might have heard from Argentina's president, Javier Milei, is just tearing through the whole facade of the global system. The point it's making is that the deep cracks in our institutions aren't hiding anymore. They're loud, they're impossible to ignore, and they're ripping the old structures to shreds.
This quote here, this really captures the kind of internal panic the Codex claims is spreading through the elite. It actually cites a former World Bank insider who apparently just gave this super blunt assessment: we're screwed. It paints this picture of total inflation chaos coming from millions, all while rivals like China are surging ahead. The message is clear. Even the people on the inside know the system is on the brink.
And then it lays out all the symptoms of this decay. You've got the US dollar teetering because of massive deficits. You have this widening inequality that it says even figures like Larry Fink have pointed out. There's this deep distrust in our institutions. It even references a papal address that laments a global rupture and a growing zeal for war. So the diagnosis isn't just about one problem, it's about a complete and total systemic failure.
Okay, so after painting that pretty grim picture, the document explains what it's trying to do. The Kukulkan Codex, which is named for the feathered serpent god, claims it's not trying to be an attack. It's supposed to be a navigation map for rebirth. It's positioned as a blueprint for a voluntary transition, like an invitation to the old guard to say, hey, help us steer towards something new instead of just going down with the ship.
So, if everything's broken, how does the Codex propose we fix it? Well, its core solution is built around three fundamental laws. These laws are designed to completely restructure society, right from the ground up. This is where all that theory turns into an actual plan of action.
So, the master plan boils down to these three pillars: the law of sovereignty, the law of cosmic order, and the law of human scale. Let's dig into what each of those actually means.
This really gets to the heart of that first law. The Codex basically says this whole moment in history is a clash between two completely different ways of seeing the world. On one side, you have the Davos paradigm, top-down control, the whole you will own nothing idea, and centralized power. But on the other side, there's the sovereign paradigm that it's pushing for, which is all about tangible ownership, self-determination, and a world made up of many independent, powerful nations.
And the Codex argues this sovereign shift isn't just some theory, right? It says you can see the signs happening all around us. It points to countries moving away from the US dollar and toward the BRICS alliance, the rise of leaders who are all about putting national sovereignty first, and this big push to reclaim technologies like AI and blockchain as public tools for freedom, not for control.
All right, now we get into the second and third laws. And this is probably where the Codex gets its most unconventional. This section, Cosmic and Human Scale, gets into humanity's relationship with the universe, with planet Earth, and even with our own bodies.
The vision here is a huge realignment. On a cosmic level, it's calling to end the militarization of space and treat it as a shared frontier for all of us. On a human level, it says the body is sacred, no more mandates, no more surveillance. And on a planetary level, it demands we restore nature, end artificial scarcity by embracing new energy sources, and commit to radical truth to try and rebuild trust. It's pretty radical stuff.
And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, a complete and total geopolitical reset. So after we've supposedly restructured our inner and outer worlds, the Codex proposes a brand new model for how countries should actually interact with each other.
It calls this new model co-cool leadership. Yep, you heard that right, co-cool. It stands for cooperative, cool, and conscious.
The whole idea is to transform power from a tool for domination into a shared responsibility. And, get this, it proposes a kind of leading quartet to guide this new era. The US, China, Russia, and India all working together.
So under this new model, global priorities would just shift dramatically. Instead of countries competing for dominance, they'd cooperate on these huge shared goals, like colonizing space together and restoring our ecosystems. The focus would shift to human well-being, making sure the economy serves us and nature, not the other way around.
And here it is, the Codex's final message to the old order. It frames this whole transition not as some violent destruction, but as a natural evolution. The old hierarchies, it says, were just scaffolding for a completed edifice. They were necessary for a while, but now they're removable. It's like saying, hey, your job is done. Thanks for building the structure, but it's time to take down the scaffolding and let the building stand on its own.
So after all that, what are we supposed to make of this? The Kukulkan Codex is, well, it's a lot. It's dense, it's provocative, and it mixes geopolitics with this deep, mystical vibe. It's presenting a really radical vision for a new world. So the question I'll leave you with is this. Is this some practical roadmap for our future? Or is it a powerful new myth, one that's bubbling up to help us make sense of a world that is changing in some profound ways?